My name is Matt Fiorenza, also known as Matty. I'm a retired Anaheim Firefighter paramedic. I have a nonprofit called the First Responder Peace and Refuge Foundation. And I also work with Dr. Gina Gallivan, a board-certified police psychologist, building wellness programs for first responder agencies. I started struggling about 10 years on the job with what we know now as the signs and symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. My drinking got out of control, and after a back injury that I suffered, I started having ideation. And after a really bad night of drinking, I had a suicide attempt, and I got a phone call from one of my mentors now, whose name is Brian Haggerty. He was an LAPD officer and an Army veteran. And for the first time, he validated everything I was going through. I went to a therapist, and she directed me to this first responder suicide prevention program for combat veterans called Save a Warrior. I went to that program and I experienced things like equine therapy and meditation, but we talked about the thing under the thing. And that was childhood trauma. And I thought this was broken, but the truth was that this was. I got 10 years of psychotherapy in 5.5 days with a bunch of men who weren't trained in, psychoanalysis or any of this stuff, and basically taught us that when you connect and when you get vulnerable, that's how we survive as human beings. With that organization, I volunteered for 3.5 years in that space. What I learned was just say yes. If someone needs help, just say yes. So I was teaching people how to meditate. I was sharing my experience with them. And then I started building these relationships with a lot of therapists that work with first responders. I started to get called out as the expert for departments to do interventions on first responders that were suicidal and using substances to cope. And I've watched jobs get saved from this, and no longer is it just a critical incident stress debriefing after a bad call to check that box. It's follow-ups. It's assigning a peer support to them to be available.
I'm really proud of you for all the work that you've done to raise awareness for first responder mental health. Because of your visit here with us, we've had quite a few members that have reached out and have asked for help. So keep doing the great work that you're doing out there. Another well-deserved award for you, and I'm so honored that you call me a friend.
When it comes to behavioral health or mental health, there's a lot of denial and there's a lot of stigma, and we got to do better. And that's where the idea of the nonprofit came in. This is the First Responder Peace and Refuge Foundation, is about standing in the gaps, all the way from preventative right down to the acute crisis intervention. There's more suicides than line of duty deaths for first responders right now, and I don't think a lot of people know that. I don't want that to happen to any more of my brothers and sisters. That's why I do this.
Matty, when we first met about 4 years ago, we never dreamed that telling your story in our film PTSD 911 would have the impact that it's having today. Your story is impacting the lives of first responders, veterans, people who are impacted by trauma in ways that we will never even fully comprehend.
I have a real strong conviction that my purpose now is to take suffering first responders and show them what's possible for their lives. I get to be a light. I get to let God use me in whatever way He wants to, as scary as it is sometimes. And it fills a part of my soul that feels like truth.